Which one is this? Well, do you hear me? Can everybody see me? No, not yet.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I don't see myself, so.
There you go. You can share now, François.
I tried it, but I still don't see my video.
There you go.
Do you see my presentation? So
I do.
Just my video is missing. I will try to start it again, but the platform says that you switched me off my video. Well,
there you go.
Okay. Well, thank you. I have now an echo, but I suppose it's working correctly. Okay. Thank you for letting me present the way the Brussels Capital Region intends to reduce the red tape. First, let me introduce myself. My title is e-government manager. I'm working for the Brussels Regional Informatics Centre since 20 years this year. Just a few weeks ago, I've got my work anniversary. So just a few words about the Brussels Capital Region itself. It has been created as an autonomous region since 1989. It is also the capital of Belgium itself, of the Flemish region, and of course of the European Union. It is about 162 square kilometers. It is made of 19 municipalities. There are 1.1 million inhabitants. It means about 1 out of 10 Belgians live in Brussels. The GDP is about 70 billion euros, and it is about 20% of the Belgian GDP. 88,000 businesses work in Brussels, and of course Brussels is renowned because of the Grand Place, some big monuments like Atomium, of course the Magritte painter, some musea, chocolates, and the Sprouts. The Brussels Regional Informatics Centre, le Centre d'informatique pour la région bruxelloise, has been founded together with the region, and it is a regional government agency. Currently, around 350 ICT experts work for us. Our mission is to be the preferred IT partner of the Brussels Capital Region public authorities. And today, around 230 organizations call upon our services, being regional or local authorities, hospitals, the fire brigade, but also primary and secondary schools and universities. Mainly, we put infrastructure into place like the broadband regional network called IRISNet, interconnecting more than 800 sites, among which 385 schools, with a broadband network made of 72 fiber optic cables. We also installed more than 200 sites with free Wi-Fi hotspots called Wi-Fi.Brussels. Of course, we have a regional data center that we manage with a redundancy on a second site for some services, not all services. And we put that data center to the disposal of our clients, our customers. It is also a means to reduce the carbon footprint and to realize economies of scale. We also develop some platforms. Of course, we are internet service provider for 500 sites. We are mail provider. We host websites, about 150 sites, among which the regional portal be.brussels, made of more than 700 pages in French, English, and Dutch. We also provide cartographic data, tools, and applications under the name Brussels Urbis. We developed a platform that I will explain soon, Irisbox, for the one-stop shop for both citizens and corporate users. We also developed platforms when several Brussels institutions are interested in, like NOVA, used for the urban planning permits management. And we have a multimedia plan for schools. About 500 primary and secondary schools are equipped with PCs, servers, iPads, interactive boards, and so on. A few years ago, in fact, at the beginning of this term, our minister decided to develop a smart city program based on the 6 domains that you see here: mobility, society, quality of life, environment, economy, and government. And the projects that I will explain in the coming slides are more specifically related to the goals of open data and online services in the framework of reducing the administrative burden. More specifically, our smart city challenges specific to our institution is to improve the connection, by the broadband connection, but also the Wi-Fi coverage, the free Wi-Fi coverage. We also intend to be more sustainable by developing the paper-free administration and reducing the transport of paper documents, which helps decrease the CO2 emissions. We also intend to be more open, thanks to an open data policy, as well as developing mobile and interactive apps. And finally, we have some challenges related to sharing CCTV images for different uses, but of course, mainly focused on security. More specifically, to reduce the red tape, we collaborate with a specific administrative simplification agency called Easy Brussels. Easy Brussels was created a few years ago to manage and implement an administrative simplification plan. 27 public agencies are gathering monthly or every 2 months, among which, of course, our institution, the Brussels Regional Informatics Centre. There is also a representative for the municipalities and the welfare agencies. In the framework of this administrative simplification plan, 7 objectives are defined, among which reducing the red tape. And more specifically, to reduce the red tape, we implemented several projects composed of ABC des démarches, an online procedures repository also equipped with a search engine that I will explain soon, the Irisbox one-stop shop, FIDUS, the regional and local enterprise service bus, an open data policy, and finally e-invoicing. So just to explain the framework of those projects, those 5 projects are more specifically focusing the relation between the public bodies and the citizens and enterprises. So we just, and the components I will explain in the coming slides are building blocks of this approach. And first of all, there will be an ABC, in fact, an online procedures repository connected to a forum platform itself connected to the regional service bus. I will explain you soon why. This service bus gives access to authoritative registers from regional as well as federal and other bodies. The platform Irisbox can also be connected with the back office systems owned by the public bodies that also can call upon the services of the FIDUS exchange platform. And finally, data can be exported from the back offices and from the authoritative registers to populate the open data platform. So that's the way those components are related to. Let me just explain and give you some details about ABC, what we call the ABC. In fact, it is starting from the statement that currently the information about administrative procedures are scattered across many websites and many portals, and sometimes not even available online. So the goal is to develop a joint web strategy about access to information, collecting information from 27 regional bodies and 38 local authorities. And inside this joint web strategy, we will develop a single gateway to administrative procedures called the ABC. More specifically, our participation to this project is to develop the tools. This means the repository itself that is based on the principles and concepts developed by the Walloon region, available on the ABC de démarche. Maybe I can just show you how it works. Just to see how the result is working in the reality, because it is not yet available in the Brussels Capital Region. So you see at the left-hand side, you first have to select the type of audience you are. You can be a citizen, a business, or education, or local body. Let's choose for citizen. And then you can choose a theme like family. And then you get here a list of possible domains, administrative domains, like become a parent, become a parent, yes, like, and then you find here below a list of administrative procedures. So this is the concept and principles developed by the Walloon region, and we will just copy them and extend them a bit, and I will come to later back to it. So every administrative procedure will be described by a title, a description, and some points of attention. It will be made available for most of them in 3 languages, French, Dutch, and English. Inside the procedure, you will find the points of contacts. Eventually, a link, a direct link to a form, an online form, to start the procedure. You can also find some attachments. You will link it to a tree structure made of the target audience I just showed you in the demo, a theme, a category, and finally a cluster of procedures and the list of procedures inside the clusters. We added to those principles the notion of tags to make it easier for the target audience to find a specific administrative procedure that has been qualified by a tag. Of course, inside the platform, you will find a workflow to edit and then pass it on to a validator, to translator, and finally to some person that is answerable for the publishing and the unpublishing of the procedures. Beside the repository itself, you find a search engine, I just showed you as a demo. And all this information will also be made available through web services. And I will come later on to it. So the approach now to get the information from the Brussels administrations is inside the steering committee I mentioned before, to find a single point of contact inside every public body, to identify the forms and the procedures. And then for every procedure, we will develop the content. I mean, edit, validate, translate, update, and finally put it inside the repository, publish the information, and make it available on at least the Brussels portal, but also to every website or portal that would be interested in publishing the same information. And the web services will also be made available to everybody. As I mentioned sooner, the description of the procedure is not enough. At the end, the target audience is interested in executing, in carrying out the administrative procedure itself. And we developed for that a transaction portal called IRIS-Box. This is the Brussels one-stop shop for the Brussels capital region. In fact, it is a highly configurable toolbox with several features. The authentication can be done using the Belgian EID, with which we also can authenticate and sign documents. The forms that you can develop through the platform can be pre-filled by calling web services, for instance. It is highly configurable. There is a payment module built in. Of course, there are workflows supported to help civil servants process the administrative procedure online. There is an access management. It is trilingual, French, Dutch, and English. It is accessible to a secured connection, but finally simply through a classical browser like Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, or Google Chrome. There is also a statistics component built in, and it can be connected to back offices, and we already do it for the Brussels capital municipalities. The providers, the form providers, are the municipalities, the regional public bodies, but also some community authorities. Big advantage, if compared with the physical counter, is that the one-stop shop is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you don't need to wait in a queue, and it is accessible through the internet. Some requirements: you of course need a browser from a PC or a tablet. Smartphones are not supported yet, but we extended the way you can identify and authenticate by integrating beside the electronic identity card some apps like a Google Authenticator, but also a very recent app called It's Me that is based on the bank card. And so by being registered to your bank company with It's Me, you already get access without any PIN code to the IRIS-Box platform. Today, 19 municipalities, 6 regional authorities, and 1 community authority already put some forms online through IRIS-Box. Just last year, in 2007, we've got 45,000 new users. We've processed more than 110,000 requests from 300 request types, among which 60 were new in 2017. 100 regional forms are published related to weapons, environment, mobility, tax, fire, grants, jobs, and hotels. But also municipal forms like certificates or procedures related to moving, parking, taxes, urban planning, pets, and so on. And as you can see, there is a huge increase in the number of requests processed last year. The reason for success, well, one big advantage of this platform is that it is made available for free to the public bodies, but at the same time, as a counterpart, the public bodies are obliged to use the form to put their the platform to put their forms online. For the citizens and businesses, it is of course a secured platform, so it is interesting when security is an issue. It is of course a one-stop shop, so it's easier for the citizen to find the appropriate procedure. And as I told before, it's available 24/7, no queue. But still, public administrations are reluctant to use it because sometimes they already own their one-stop shop, or they claim to own one-stop shop, their own one-stop shop. Most of the time, if they have forms, there is an important work to do to simplify the form before to be put online, because most of the forms are too complex for citizens. And some administrations still believe that their form are a special case, and so they intend to develop their own system because of that statement. Citizens and businesses also cope with some difficulties because of the technical requirements. Originally, it was only accessible through the EID, but as of today, as I told before, by using different authentication means, this problem is decreasing. But still, there is a digital divide in the Brussels capital population, and that's one of the reasons why we enforced our inclusion efforts. In cooperation with the Easy Brussels Simplification Agency, we are making an inventory of the forms, of the available paper forms or electronic forms already put online, with the aim to simplify them through guidance and support to the Brussels public bodies. And in parallel, we promote the Irisbook platform through several campaigns based on press conference, but also civil servant training, animation in town halls, radio spots, and so on. Well, the next component I named before is the FIDUS exchange platform. So why do we need a data exchange platform? Well, the main reason is that if you don't use what we call a services integrator, you get a figure like this, which is a spaghetti. Every public body has to connect to every authoritative register separately using different standards and different licenses and so on, which is quite complex for public bodies. So finally, basically, when you use services integrator, it makes it simpler when a public body knows where to get the appropriate information and where to get the appropriate data through one channel. Beside of that, it was in fact a recommendation from the Belgian Privacy Commission that wanted to improve the strict access control, improve the security, and requests a very accurate log keeping. There was also a need for standardization, mainly standardization from a semantic perspective, but also from the interfaces. Also, when an integrator already connected to an authoritative source, it can be made available to all public bodies in a simpler way. And we also needed to add to the platform some generic functions like filtering and aggregation needed for some specific goals. So a few years ago, in fact in 2014, the Brussels government and the Brussels Parliament adopted an ordinance that says that if authoritative data are available online via the Brussels Services Integrator called FIDUS, it is forbidden to public bodies to request the data from the citizen or the business directly. It's what we call in Belgium the only ones principle. The consultation is then mandatory via FIDUS, via the platform, but the government can give a derogation for maximum 5 years. At the same time, the ordinance provides some specific rights for citizens and businesses, namely to consult the data, but also to ask for rectification of the data when they detect anomalies, and finally to consult the access logs. So just to know who is doing what with their data. In parallel, data managers must ensure the quality, the security of the data made available, and must keep change history. And the data recipients are also obliged to report anomalies when they detect them. And that's the reason why we put that special platform called FIDUS in place, which contains some general features like crypting and signing, but also 3 very important features, named the rules directory, which intend to configure access according to the granted authorizations. This is made by setting the rules inside a database, configured manually under the control of our CISO. And the structure of a rule is finally very simple. It's made of the recipient, so the user, the service it calls, the legal context, and finally an eventual filter on the data to filter out data that would not be acceptable according to the authorization that has been granted to the recipient. A second component is the reference directory, which aim at guaranteeing the security, but also subscribing to updates. So it enables a Brussels institution to receive updates related to one specific data item, like a business or a physical person. It is implemented through a web service called by the consumer, and the structure is also very simple. It is made of the recipient, the legal context, the target's ID, I mean business ID or people ID, and finally the period in which you are interested in. And finally, we are supposed to keep a log of who access to what, when, and why. And that's the main goal of the log keeping functions. Currently, the platform gives access to business-related information, but also to social security, like disabilities, but also information about the career, the unemployment, the pension, family allowances, and social debts. The national register is also made available, and it gives information about Belgian citizens. You can also get information about the federal tax administration, like incomes, but also cadastral and real estate information and fiscal debts. We also get access to vehicle database and the order of architects. And the recipients, the current recipients are Brussels institutions like social housing to control the conditions to admit a family in a social housing, and also to calculate the rent. The parking agency also need to get access to information related to vehicle, but also the Brussels tax administration and some community approval procedures need to get access. And finally, municipalities use those services. And finally, the last component I want to explain you or give you some information is related to open data. A few years ago, European regulation was put in place and published in the official journal of the European Union. It has been transposed in Brussels regulation, and that this Brussels regulation enforce the public bodies to publish their documents online. All their documents with some restrictions when national security or confidentiality or personal data are at stake. The data must be put available for commercial and non-commercial use. The public bodies may not limit the fair competition through licenses. There is an appeal procedure possible for when an administration would refuse to give access to data. A recent decision defined 3 general licenses based on the CC, Creative Commons without any restriction, the Creative Commons BY, the CC BY, and then a 3rd license with the fee, with the provision to get a fee for the data. But when you ask for a fee, it must be limited to marginal costs, according to the European regulation. So based on this regulation, we developed some platforms. We developed, in fact, 2 different platforms, and I will show you how it works. This is a catalog of all the data sets that are made available to everybody. As you can see, we already make 140 data sets available, which is not bad considering that we started this project in less than 2 years ago. About 20 public bodies publish information on different subjects. This is the first platform. In parallel, we also developed a platform to give access, to give an easy access, or to ease the access to web services, which is what we call an API manager that already gives access to 5 services, and 34 services will be made available soon and are already in the staging phase. The final goal is to integrate those platforms inside a larger platform called the Smart City platform. It will interconnect different elements, existing elements like the Inspire geocatalog, where you can already find a catalog, but also services to view and to download specific cartographic information related to the Inspire directive. The API manager will be built in this platform. And of course, other platforms coming from third party or from other public bodies will be interconnected to this smart city platform. We also stated that it was still difficult for public bodies to transform their data by themselves. So we decided to go one step further and to provide them with a special API that will make it easier for them to publish the data. Data can then be extracted from their own environment, and through an API upload system will be transformed into GeoFile, or to be made available through GIS services, or eventually they will be converted into different formats and made available to be downloaded through the API manager or through the Open Data Store, Open Data Catalog. This is coming soon. This is a project that will be put online in the coming weeks. We still cooperate with all the regional bodies because as you may imagine, it's not easy to get administrations involved in the process because of different priorities. But still, we've got some cooperation with the municipalities, the Brussels municipalities, and after some months of discussion, they decided, they identified 11 common data sets that you can see here, and they already decided that the 19 municipalities will make those informations available online, namely the council decisions, the annual reports, the annual accounts, the budgets, the municipal regulations, information about libraries, nurseries, and markets, sport infrastructures, non-profits and sport clubs, and finally, the urban planning permits. This is a graph showing the evolution. As you can see, as of today, the number of data sets is not increasing very drastically, but we hope to improve it soon by the development of the components I explained before. So why doesn't it go as fast as we hope to see it working? Well, most of the time, civil servants, and specifically municipal civil servants, are not very available because of the number of tasks that they are supposed to do, or different priority. In parallel, there is a difficulty because those institutions do not have a document management policy yet. So it's sometimes difficult to find the data sets themselves, to know for the single point of contact, even for the single point of contact that has been designated for the public body, it is difficult to find the existing data sets. Most of the time, you do not have more than a paper document or paper documents. Or sometimes the documents exist, but in an inappropriate format, either proprietary or just unstructured. And sometimes the data available contains personal data. So you first need to process them, to remove the personal data before to publish them. So this is an issue. Well, this is concluding my presentation. And thank you for your attention.
François, thank you very much. It was a great presentation, and we can have a sense of how robust the Brussels Smart City strategy is, and a sense of what we will learn also from you guys in the end of May when we hold our annual workshop. So we have a lot of questions. I'm not sure we're going to be able to respond all of them, but I will start in order to do them. And if we are not able to answer all of them, we'll make sure to get the answer by email afterwards. So the first question, François, is how can you further explain the type of mobile apps initiatives that you have developed in Brussels? From a government perspective, of course.
Initially, we developed the Fix My Street app in collaboration with Brussels Mobility. So the Fix My Street is an application dedicated to report potholes and the problems you can get in the public space. So this is one of the collaboration, but of course, by providing information, cartographic information that can be used by other public bodies to develop initiatives related to mobility. But in fact, up to now, I don't know exactly if we developed other initiatives. We collaborate with the other public bodies that are more specifically aiming and improving the mobility, like the Parking Brussels Parking Agency. We developed some forms inside the Irisbox platform to let citizens and businesses order parking cards online. So this is typically the way we work to improve the mobility, because of course at our scale we are not we do not have any mean to improve the mobility in another way. I mean, there is no specific app, and it's also not needed because there are already many players on the Brussels market, like Citymapper, just to mention one. Citymapper use information coming from our databases and coming from web services published by the public transport Brussels agency, STIB. But they publish their web services by themselves. They don't need our agency to help them for that.
Okay. And we have another very interesting question coming from Taraba State from Nigeria. They don't have an ICT city infrastructure yet. So I know it's not rocket science and there is no right answer here, but from your point of view, what is the minimum requirement to start or what should be a suitable starting point for a city that is starting to develop a smart city strategy?
Smart city strategy. Well, you know, I would first mention that being smart doesn't specifically mean platforms. Sometimes just providing citizens and businesses with data is already an important step. And but of course, it is always a good start to give access to a catalog, because most of the time citizens and businesses experience difficulties to know where are the data, which institution can give access to what kind of data. And when the data are available, companies can start a business, or even for free, as we experience with Citymapper, for instance. So I would start, and it is also considered as one of the focal point of a smart city approach, is to give data available through an open data platform. So that would be a good start, in my opinion.
And that's very convenient, because that's exactly what we are gonna discuss in Brussels in May. And I'm gonna merge two questions here. They are related to the partnership and stakeholder involvement in the smart city strategy. First, you mentioned that you have included the order of architects in the system. They want to know why specifically them, and if there are other stakeholders engaged in your strategy, and also if you have implemented any citizen participation activities to develop this strategy. So it's very linked to stakeholder and how you manage the different stakeholder relationships while you design the policy.
Yes, I mentioned the order of architect because there is an important procedure in the Brussels Capital Region related to urban planning. And of course, when you ask for a building permit, you must be helped by a recognized architect. And the only way to be sure that the architect has the necessary title to do so, you need to connect to an authoritative source. And the order of architect is one of them. So it was just an example because most of the existing authoritative sources are federal ones up to now. The order of architects is a regional one. You have, in fact, I think 2 or 3 different order of architects, one by region or one by community, I don't remember exactly. So this is one example of the possibilities, but other authoritative sources are coming, like an authoritative source for addresses, for buildings, and so on. But this is a continuous process, of course, because being an authoritative data source means a lot of duties, rights and obligations, namely to guarantee the quality and of the data, and guaranteeing also that the information is up to date. So now the way to involve stakeholders into the project, I'm not a specialist of that aspect, but I know that my colleague Céline van der Borgt, that is more specifically, she's the smart city manager. She's involved in the hackathons, for instance. This is the way we involve other stakeholders by organizing thematic hackathons. There has been already one related to mobility, one to gender mainstreaming, IoT, and so on, various subjects. Education, maybe. Noise pollution also, so environment. You see, focusing on some thematic hackathons is the way we organize it. But I must confess, this is not yet very widespread to consult citizens and businesses using a platform. We do not have a specific platform to do so. I mean a technological platform to do so, except of course what I already mentioned with the open data platform, which is a good starting point to do so.
Okay, well, we have time for one last question, and this is about the Brussels one-stop shop.
Yes.
Tala is asking what was the total funding and who funded the project? If you can open, of course, numbers.
I don't know the numbers, but do you know that Iris Box, how much it costs? Combien est-ce que ça a coûté? No idea. No, I think it's more than, but it's difficult to say because the maintenance itself is quite costly. And I think we are already running the 4th generation. So we developed the project starting from an own development in the framework of the Telecities European project many years ago. I mean, I think about 20 years ago. And from there, we already changed twice the technology. So it's difficult to measure because, of course, when you switch from one technology to the next one, all the existing forms need to be converted at the same time. So when you have just a few, no problem. But when you have 300 forms, yes, of course, it is a costly operation.
Yeah.
But I cannot give you the digits.
Okay.
I can ask for them, but I don't know them.
Okay. Well, so before we end the seminar, I would like to thank you, François. That was a great presentation, and thank you for taking the time to prepare it and to be with us today. So as we end the conversation, I would like to give you some next steps you can take. I encourage you to join us on Twitter, and also to visit our website to learn more about our activities, but also the experiences that other cities have shared in our platform. And you also can feel free to contact me at info@uraia.org. I'm gonna send you all participants the presentations and also the recordings and all the information that you need from us if you want to take part in other initiatives. So thank you all. Diana, I don't know if you want to do a final remark, but we'll close.
Gabriel, just one last word. I will send you the very last version because I made some little changes in my presentation. So don't send the one I sent you just a few hours before.
Don't worry. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye.